Welcome to Let's Talk Common Sense with Libertyville Savings Bank. We will be sharing financial tips, tricks, and tidbits that might not be so common sense. We are a bank that's willing to try new approaches in an effort to educate our customers and our communities. Follow along as we interview employees, vendors, and customers in all things finance. Welcome back. On this episode of Let's Talk Common Sense, we will be discussing a topic that most of us would rather just not think about. What happens to my accounts when I pass away? Taking a little time now to sit down and think about what needs to happen and who needs to have access before that time comes can save your loved ones weeks or even months of stress after you're gone. Every family has a different situation and with many different factors in play, so this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. If you have large assets that will need to be sold, transferred, or otherwise distributed, our best advice is to discuss your specifics with a lawyer or financial advisor. We do have a couple that we work with here at Libertyville Savings Bank, and we'd love to provide you with some recommendations if you're in need. Regardless of the size of your estate, your bank accounts need to be set up in a manner that will allow them to be managed in the way that you wish. In this episode, I will be talking to Jennifer Martin, our VP of Deposits here at Libertyville Savings Bank, to give us a little insight. Hey Jennifer, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
In this episode, I want to discuss some of the account basics to give our listeners some things to think about in making sure that their accounts are set up how they wish for them to be. First of all, can you tell us the difference between just a joint owner and an authorized signer as far as a personal account goes?
Sure. Joint owners would be the people that actually own the account. It could be more than one owner, it could be two or three, and they all have access to the account. Okay. And if one of the owners would pass, then the account can still be used. Those other remaining owners could still have access.
Okay. And then an authorized signer, do they still have access?
That's the difference. So an authorized signer, as long as the owners are alive, they can do whatever the owners need them to do. Mm-hmm. But if one of the owners dies or both of them, then that access is no longer available.
Okay. And this applies whether or not they're married, a child, two completely unrelated individuals on the account, correct?
Yes. Anybody can have a joint account with anybody. You don't have to be related or have children or any of those things.
Okay. And then how about having someone listed as a POD, payable on death, on the account? What does that actually mean?
Sure. So a POD stands for payable on death. So it's like naming a beneficiary on your account. Typically, you see that a lot in single owner accounts where it's one person owns the account and they want to make sure that those funds go to who they have listed after they've passed.
Okay. So they can't continue to use the account, right?
On payable on death?
Yes.
They have no access to the account while the owner is alive. And it's very common. Lots of times people don't even know they're listed as payable on death. The owner will come in and they might just say, hey, I want to list this person as payable on death. So if something happens, I've got a beneficiary listed. And as the bank, we still only deal with the owner. We do not deal with the person listed as the payable on death.
Okay. So the account owner passes away. The person who is listed on payable on death, what do they need to do to access that then?
Typically, if they knew they were listed,
mm-hmm.
they would contact the bank. They're going to provide us a death certificate. Mm-hmm. And then once we have the death certificate, we usually set up an appointment. They come in. They tell us what they want to do, whether, most of the time it's taking the money or they'll set up another account from there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if they don't know they're listed, do we reach out and contact them then?
We have. Lots of times, though, there's a lawyer involved, and the lawyer is going to reach out to us first and inventory what the customer had, and then they will make that initial contact.
Okay. So then how is a POA, power of attorney, different than the POD?
Sure. Power of attorney deals with the customer while they're living.
Okay.
The power of attorney ceases at death. So if you are a power of attorney and the person you're in charge of passes, that's when your authority ceases at that time.
Okay. So when someone has power of attorney paperwork, can you explain the difference between a medical power of attorney and a financial power of attorney as far as the bank is concerned, and when does it go into effect?
Sure. So medical power of attorney would deal with your health. And most generally, the bank would never need that information. That's going to be given to your doctor or your your care provider there. Okay. Power of attorney financially are written a little different. Sometimes it's just over your banking. Sometimes it can include real estate, bond transactions. It just kind of depends on how you write it.
Okay.
I always tell customers, when you get them, bring them in and we'll put them on file. Doesn't mean they go into effect right away. Depends on how you write them. Some of them go into effect as soon as you're not able to handle your business. Some of them go in effect once the doctor has written a note saying that you're unable to handle your business. It depends on how the customer wrote it.
Okay. Great. So it doesn't hurt anything to go ahead and bring it in then, have it on file. And when we truly need it, then it's here and ready to go?
Yes, I would strongly encourage it, that it's good just to have it on file.
Okay. I want to circle back to adding joint owners or PODs to an account. Would you suggest talking to your lawyer or your estate planner before making those changes, especially like in the case of an estate where larger funds are concerned?
Yeah, I try to always tell customers who are thinking about making some changes, check with your attorney, because they may have some ideas with some estate planning or something that we as bankers don't know. I think the one thing I always tell our customers is, if something happens to you, the first document we're going to look at is the signature card and how things are titled. And that's what we have to go by.
Okay. So in the case that a person hasn't taken these steps, they haven't prepared their accounts, there's no joint owner, there's no POD, what happens to their account when they pass away?
Well, if it's a single account, meaning one owner, and the person passes away, normally there's going to be a family member that's probably going to be in charge, and they're going to go see that person's lawyer. The lawyer generally sends out letters to banks asking what, if they had any accounts, if they do, what it is, and then we reply to that and send that to the lawyer. And then from there, there's usually some appointment of executor.
Okay. And if there's not enough assets to warrant a full estate, what would the family need to do to gain access to the accounts?
They, again, would need to contact a lawyer, probably fill them in on what situation there is, and then the lawyer should advise them from there.
Okay. And have you seen any instances where families didn't have their affairs in order and it caused the family members left a lot of stress getting their affairs handled after they've passed?
I've seen some instances where, yes, it can. And I think people also try, maybe they tried really hard to have it set up they wanted, and things change.
Sure.
And they forget to go back and look at, maybe they forgot that maybe the person they listed passed away. And then that could cause some trouble. So yeah, I have seen some things.
Okay. And we operate in small communities. We know our customers very well. I think sometimes there can be a misconception that just because we know someone is the son or the daughter, that we should be able to just let them do whatever they're asking. Can you kind of touch on our legal obligations as the bank when it comes to the accounts, loans, lockboxes of a customer who's passed away?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said before, when a customer passes away, the first thing we're going to do is look at the signature card, whether it's for a checking, a savings, a lockbox, whatever that card says is what we as the bank have to go by legally.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining me, Jennifer. I appreciate your insight.
You're welcome.
Other documents that may be helpful in your estate planning, large or small, are legal documents such as a living will, a last will and testament, and a funeral planning declaration. These documents lay out your wishes for how your final healthcare and funeral planning is handled, as well as what happens with your personal possessions and any dependents still under your care. Some of these documents can be found online and established on your own with a notary, but to ensure accuracy, it would be best to establish them with a lawyer. There are also options available such as trusts that allow the management of funds while you are living and specifically outline what you want done with your assets after your passing. To establish a trust, you will need to visit with your lawyer and then bring the paperwork into your financial institution to get your accounts transferred over. As mentioned in the beginning, we want to encourage you to talk to your loved ones. Make sure they know where to find information they will need. Your bank names and what you have there, any investments you may have, lists of credit cards, utility accounts, etc. If you own a life insurance policy, make sure your heirs know where it's located. Make sure you have titles for all of your vehicles. If you have a lockbox, the person entering should know where the keys are, especially if you have important paperwork in there. Like your personal accounts, lockbox also have designations of who can enter while you're still living and after you pass. Not only is it important to have these kinds of documents set up and in place, but you should also make a habit of reviewing them. An annual review can be done quickly to make sure that nothing's changed in how you want your affairs to be managed and who will be managing them. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Common Sense. Be sure to subscribe to receive notifications as we release new episodes.